Okay, this is another Can You Do This video tutorial. And the idea here is that you're going to be able to have a text field, a dynamic text field with a number in it. This is just a label, so lives is just a label. One up is just a label, and every time you hit this button, okay, it's going to add a number or add one to the existing number of lives. So imagine you're playing a video game and you hit a one up and it adds to your lives. Okay, you can use the same code you could have another button here called die, and every time you die you lose a number or lose a life. Okay, so that's what you're trying to do. Okay, take a look at that, take that in for a second, think about what's there, think about your elements and what you have to do. Pause the video, create your interface, and come back to the video once you're ready to go. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've set this up. Now you should have you could have done this on different layers, assuming that you organize it that way. So this is a label and this is a label, so they are static text, they are not going to change. And then we've got a dynamic text field here. So let's create this. I'm going to start off with my labels. I'm going to go to, actually move this down a bit here, come back to that. Alright, I'm going to call this labels. I'm going to make another layer. I'll make my actions layer on the top, make another one. Called, let's say, buttons and graphics. I'm going to put on the same layer. Alright, labels. So first I'm going to create a static text field, and this is going to say lives. Okay, I'm going to have another one over here that says one up. Okay, and I'm going to have a dynamic text field underneath lives. Try that again. Dynamic. Okay, and I'm going to move this down here. That's a bit long. Okay, and this is going to be my number of lives. Make sure that your color is not white so that you can see it against the background. We're going to create a button. Convert that to a symbol. A button. And I'm going to give it an instance name of, let's call it one up. That's not a valid name. Okay, let's try one more life. What? Oh, alpha. Okay, it's got to be it can't be a number. Okay, so we'll go one up. Okay, that's fine. And we're going to give this an instance name as well because we need to send some text to that. So we're going to call this lives, capital L, lives left. Okay, great. So the first thing we need to do is we need to populate this with a number, and that number, oh, I should put this and this. I'm going to cut and put them in the same place but on this layer so that it's organized properly. That's not a big deal, but you know, because I did the layers, I will. Okay, I've got to create some actions. So what I need to do is get my actions palette. I'm going to be adding some code to this button. Okay, that code is going to be a function that runs when I click it. It's going to send some information to this text box. Now we've done this, so if you need to go back and check the tutorial that you have saved on your computer about how we did that. How do we send a number to a text field? What elements do we have to do? I'm going to have you pause the video right here. Okay, think about what you need to do and try and get that done. Okay, welcome back. Alright, so hopefully you've made some progress. Your next step will be to populate some information into this. Okay, we have a instance name which is lives left. We've got a button with a instance name as well. We're going to start adding our code. So I'm going to first create my function. Okay, so code snippets. It's going to be mouse-click event. I'm going to get rid of all of this because I don't need my instructions. And I'm going to get rid of my default code because I don't need any of that. Alright, so one up is listening for a click. When I click on it, it's going to run a function. I'm going to call this a little bit easier to remember, something like add a life. Okay, that's going to be the name of the function, which I'm also going to put here. Okay, just easier to work with. And I'm going to tell this, I want to put a number in here. Okay, now to do that, I need a variable. right? I can put in a number, but I need that number to change every once in a while. So I'm gonna come back to this in a second. Okay, come back to this in I need a variable. Okay, so I need to define a variable. I'm gonna pause the video right there and have you think about what the variable is going to be. What's a relatively intelligent name for what this is going to be? It's going to be the number of lives left. So you need a name that makes sense for that variable. It's going to be, is it a string or is it a number? Is it an integer? Is it a Boolean? What thing is going to go here? Well, it's going to be a number. Okay, so you need to identify the variable's name and then the number, and then are you going to give it a value off the top? So do you start your game with any lives, or do you start at 0? Okay, think about that, pause the video, try and figure that out, and come back to it. Okay, good. Hopefully you have set a name, something like number of lives. Okay, that's the name of that's how many lives you have left, and it is going to be a number. Oops, number. I'm going to make it equal to 3 because I want to have 3 lives to start. Okay, and that should be all you need to do to set that variable. Okay, now when I run this, I'm going to get rid of this here, and I'm going to put a trace in here, and I'm going to trace num of lives, the value of this. So when I click on this button, it's not going to do what I want it to do in the end, but I'm going to check that it's working. Okay, so let's run this, make sure I have no errors. I don't. It looks like everything's okay. I click this, and it traces out 3, which is good. That means that worked. Okay, it tells me that I should embed my fonts. I should have done that, so let's get that out of the way. Go here, click embed. I'm only going to be using numbers, so I'm going to hit numerals, okay, 0 to 9. And now when I run this, I get no errors. And when I click this, it outputs my number of lives, which was 3. I set that up here at the beginning of my actions, right? So I'll go here. There it is, 3. So it spits this out. So that everything right now is working. Okay, now I got to add a little bit of code here. Let's get this out of the way. I got to add some code. So when I click on this button, I don't want to actually trace. I don't want that to happen. What I want to do is I want to put the value of that up here. Now we did a tutorial where we sent a number based on the button that's clicked, 1, 2, 3, or 4. We send a number to this text field, right? We can't do it as a string. We've got to turn it, or sorry, we can't do it as a number. We've got to turn it to a string. That's your hint. Think about that. Pause the video and think about what you need to do, and try and get that piece of code into the instruction here, into your function. Okay, all goes here. Okay, go. Okay, welcome back. We are trying to put some code in here. All right, what do we need to do? Well, I need to tell this thing, which is called lives left. Okay, I need to say lives left. The value of what? Well, the text value. So the text value of this text box up here needs to be equal to what? Well, this value right here. So I'm going to say num capital O of capital L lives. I'm going to put that guy in there. Oh, no, it's a mistake. Num of lives dot to string. If I don't do this, if I just say that, it's going to give me an error. Right? It's going to say you're trying to force. So coercion means to coerce something, to force it. You're trying to force a value of a number into a text box. Right? A text box can only take a string. So remember, we've got to do something there to make that work. Okay. So what do we have to do? See if you can remember. Pause it if you remember and put it in there. To string. Oops, too strong. To string. Open close. I think. Maybe not. I think it's just that. Let's test it. I can't remember if I need those brackets or not. Good, that worked. Great. Now the problem is that it's putting this number up in here when I click it. What do I want this to do? I don't want to make this. Right? I run this button. And I click this. That's not actually what I want it to do. What I want it to do is add 1 to this. What I also want to happen is I want this piece of code here to be already populated. It's not happening until I click the button. That's not right. You start a video game and you know how many lives you have. You don't have to do anything. So let's take this piece of code. I'm going to cut it out of there. Or, oops. Okay, I'm going to cut that from there. And I'm going to have it happen as one of the first things that happens. It sets a variable, and then it's going to immediately put the content into this. Right? So now when I run it, I'm going to put a little nothing here. Okay, I'm going to run this, and let's see what happens. Oops, an error. Oh yeah, I missed it. There. All right, I run this, and now it puts this in before I click anything, because I put that code up here. So it runs this code, and then it starts waiting for this stuff. Okay, so our lives are 3. Now this is not doing anything, because I've got nothing here. Let's fix that. See if you can figure out what goes here based on what we've done so far. Okay, I'll pause the video here and see if you can. What are you going to do? You're gonna try and up this number by 1, right? Okay. Good luck. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you are killing it here. We want to make this equal to num of lives plus 1. Okay. Once we do that, let's take a look. Now this is not going to work. Well, let's see what happens. I click this. It's not doing anything because I haven't told it to repopulate this. Watch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, I'm going to put a line of code right here that says trace num of lives. Okay. And I put that same line of code right afterwards. Okay, I'm going to run this. Okay, right now, when I click this, it's going to give me, click this, it's going to trace 3, which is what it was. Then it's going, so it goes trace number of lives. There's 3, it traces it right here. Then it goes make that number what it was plus 1, and then trace it. Traces out 4, right? So it went 3, that's this line, 3. Add 1 to it, and then trace it again, 4. Good. Now I need to populate this again, right? So I got to say, I'm going to take this line of text right here, copy it, and I'm going to say, again, take whatever the value of text of number of lives, which is this, and stick it in here. Okay, and it's going to take this and populate it with the new number. Okay, I can get rid of those traces. I don't need those. Oops. And there we go. Get it? So many lives.